I haven't changed, I don't think, in my beliefs or anything, and I don't think Ritchie has either. And through running our own bands, we both had very different points of view. We always have, and we always will have, I think. You know, that's very healthy for the band. But I think it's possible, purely through what we've done over the last 10 years, to be able to be both tolerant and a little bit more mature, and at the same time as outrageous as we ever were. In fact, even more. Because there's a wonderful spirit within this band.
In 1984, legendary hard rock band Deep Purple finally reunited, bringing back the iconic Mark II lineup of Ian Gillan, Ritchie Blackmore, Roger Glover, John Lord, and Ian Paice. Their comeback album Perfect Strangers showcased their renewed energy and musical prowess, delighting fans with powerful new tracks and a triumphant world tour. This reunion reignited Deep Purple's flame, celebrating their storied past while propelling them into an exciting new chapter of rock and roll history. Here follows a candid interview with vocalist Ian Gillan.
Of a unit as opposed to being the leader of a unit.
It's going to be as easy as pie. It's actually a great relief. It was great fun running my own outfit. We ran it fairly democratically, when everyone was equal. It's just that I was, as they say, a bit more equal than everyone else, I suppose, when it came to decisions and that sort of thing. But it was a great... I actually had the first experience of that when I joined Sabbath for a year, and I think the first 6 months of Sabbath I was more enjoying for the reasons that you've just sort of gone into. No responsibilities, I haven't got to worry about anyone else, I'm just the singer in the band. It's great. And I think a lot of the problems that existed in Purple before were basically between Ritchie and myself. They were never that deep, but little wounds fester, you know, and as time went on and we became more and more tired, and we weren't really growing up at all. We were, I think, quite professional, but only in terms of performance and recording and the musical side, not really in terms of a professional attitude to life and the philosophies that you adopt after years of seeing other people's points of view. We weren't able to see that because there was so much pressure. Everyone talks about it. I mean, I'm glad we didn't actually turn to, you know, sort of terrible drug addicts and all that sort of thing. We all went out and instead of being drug addicts, I suppose we went out and did the next worst thing, which was front our own bands, you know. It didn't seem to matter whether it was commercial or not. I think it's one of those things you just want it to be good. And you suddenly realise how selfish you are and how important it is to be selfish and how important music is to you personally. And I adopted this thing, I've said it many times, that, you know, in my life I've realised that music is a strange thing. The public is very fickle. You've got to please yourself. If you do something to fit in with a trend, or if you adapt your style and become something you don't really want to be, if it's a failure, it's a disaster. I mean, because you failed at doing something you didn't want to do in the first place. If it's a success, it's, you know, it's a sort of shallow success, because it's not really you, and then when fashions change again, you're out of it. But if you stick to what you believe in, then I think probably every 2 or 3 years out of every 10 years, your taste in music is going to coincide with public taste, and you'll get some hit records. But in the meantime, you're having a great time. And if your records aren't successful, doesn't matter. You can go home, you can sleep at night, you can actually play your own records to your friends when they come around to your house for a drink and everything else. And if it's successful, that's the best kind of success. Absolutely the best. I haven't changed, I don't think, in my beliefs or anything, and I don't think Ritchie has either. And through running our own bands, we both had very different points of view. We always have, and we always will have, I think. You know, that's very healthy for the band. But I think it's possible, purely through what we've done over the last 10 years, to be able to be both tolerant and a little bit more mature, and at the same time as outrageous as we ever were. In fact, even more, because there's a wonderful spirit within this band. I mean, okay, Ritchie and I are the sort of oddballs, I suppose, if you like. Don't tell him I said that, will you? But the fact is that when we first started rehearsals, it was just incredible. Everyone started playing, and this band was just made to be. It always was. And I just sat there on a stool. John was late, as usual, reading a book or something. And Ritchie sat on a stool and started playing. Ian came in, picked up the rhythm. Roger came in, put his coffee down, cigarette in mouth. I'll never forget the scene.
Get ready to dance, everybody, yeah!
Rock Commander is a celebration of rock and metal culture. Manage your own rock bands, connect with a passionate community, and experience exclusive collaborations with real bands like American Chaos and Adam and the Metal Hawks.
And it's just a jam. And I just sat there with cold shivers just going down my back, thinking these are the greatest players I've ever worked with. And you couldn't plan it. No producer, no manager, no record company could plan this band. I've never known a band that achieved such success as Purple did in the early 70s and then broke up. And every single member of the band stayed in music, performing, writing, recording, producing, whatever. And then reformed, with everyone right on the case, being very aware of where music was at and what was going on and everything else. I mean, when I heard the musical ideas, because I don't put any contribution into the instrumental ideas, and when I heard what was coming forward, it was so vibrant. The other day I was thinking about what's happened between the time when Purple was sort of breaking through in the UK and just like this year, for example. And there's now we're talking about 1969, 1970 and 1984, so it's about 14 years, 14 or 15 years difference. And rock has survived throughout all that time through. I mean, it's been pinned against the wall and chucked out, and it's always come back. And it's very easy to be critical about it, but I think going back to running our own bands and all that sort of thing, it was a big problem with trying to fight the trends and everything else. But I mean, you never give in. You do what you believe in, and you stick to what you believe in. You find the best musicians, and you deal in what you believe in is quality and music that makes you happy. Music, I don't mean like knees up, but I mean music that gives you a shiver down your back. And I was imagining the average rock fan in 1970 going to a variety of concerts. And they may go one week to see Black Sabbath in 1970, which was probably at that time the heaviest end of the musical spectrum. I mean, really the original heavy metal band, I suppose. Then another week they might go and see Jethro Tull, which is a sort of folk-orientated rock music. Another week they might go and see Nice, which is classical rock feeling. And then a few weeks later they might go and see Free, which is soul and blues based. All of these bands are great, absolutely fantastic. Then they might go and see Mark Bolan or T-Rex or whatever. And it suddenly occurred to me how badly things are at the moment in the way of the general concept of appreciation of music through, I think, particularly the newspaper medium in this country. It's been segregated so much, and I find it very sad. I'd love to see Paul Young and Adamant and the Police and all those other kind of people appreciated in a much wider form of acknowledgement of the talent that particularly British music has been producing over the years. But it's become so segregated that what has now become the rock and roll, as people see it now, is heavy metal. And everyone's been dragged into this very, I don't know, very narrow, two parallel lines, and everyone seems to be screaming and shouting and headbanging, which was always part of rock and roll, and it's exciting. But there seems to be no colour, no texture, no dynamism, no balance, and nothing to offset it. It's like somebody shouting at you all the time. If they shout at you all the time, it becomes ineffective after a while. Whereas if you have a bit of melody or colour or anything else, and if people are talking very quietly, and then they go, wah, and it makes you jump, you know, and it has an effect. I don't mean this as an indictment of any of the bands who are sticking to the heavy rock side of it. I don't mean that as an indictment at all. I just wish that people would widen their views slightly, and it'd be great for you to be able to play to an audience that you knew would actually want to hear it because they hadn't been led up the garden path as to say, well, no, this is not fashionable, this is not rock music or whatever. I think what I'm trying to say is that we had a much broader point of view 10 or 15 years ago as far as the appreciation of good music was concerned.
Yeah. Of all the tracks that you recorded during the time that you were not part of Purple, which do you think is the one that you would look back in 20 years' time or whenever, as you'd play it again and go, that really was representative of that part of my life?
Oh, that's a difficult question. You know, I did 11 albums between leaving Purple and rejoining Purple.
Right. And
it's very difficult. The tracks I look back on with great affection, like Mr. Universe, Born to Kill, No Laughing in Heaven, Dead of Night. Oh,
I'll have to ask you to choose one. I don't know, it's a difficult thing, but there's one when you think about it, you revel in. You go, it worked. On every conceivable level, it worked.
Oh, Lord. Well, I think the most fun track then, I think, that we ever did, and if you can find this, if you can find it in the BBC library, I defy you to find it. But it was released, it was a B-side of which single I forget. But it was written in the pub next door to my studio, which I used to have. And we decided on a title. We decided on a key. And we decided how many verses there were going to be before we went to a chorus. So it was going to be a couple of verses, chorus, and then a solo in another key. It was all worked out on the back of a napkin. We went in and played it, and we decided that whatever went down first take was going to be it. This was when we were competing against the Sex Pistols and everything else, and punk was at its height. And we thought, well, in actual fact, they haven't got it too wrong, because really rock and roll should be like that as well. And it always was. It's a track called The Maelstrom.
And the album Perfect Strangers by Deep Purple is now available. That was called Wasted Sunsets. Many thanks to Ritchie Blackmore, Ian Gillan, Roger Glover, John Lord and Ian Paice for their time. Thanks to the landlord of the Ship in Bedford and also the bar staff at the Moat Hotel for their hospitality. And as somebody said when they first heard the album, oh well, I think all the other bands better go back to school. On behalf of all the people on the music side of Radio 1, this is Tommy Vance. I wish you well. Have yourself a very, very good weekend and a safe weekend as well. God bless. Good night.